Now we're going to be talking about what happens when we actually receive our inventory. Now there are two ways, as you can see, we saw this drop down menu and we have two options. And these are very, very common when it comes to ordering, especially when you're ordering a lot of items in large quantities, right? You're either going to receive a bill or you're actually going to receive a part of the shipment and you're going to get a shipping or a packaging slip. Okay, so usually that often comes if you don't have a bill. Now, if you do receive inventory or a portion of it and you don't receive a bill, first thing you're going to do is when you click on that, you're going to get an item receipt. Okay, because first things first is we haven't received our whole entire inventory, and if we have, we still haven't received the bill yet. So it's important that you understand this. Now, what you do is when you normally get a packaging slip, you usually keep that because that's going to be considered, in other terms, your item receipt. It's making sure that on the packaging slip, it gives you the details of what this order entailed and whether it's a part 1 or a part 2 of whatever your total shipment is going to be. For example, what happened oftentimes is if you're buying large quantities, let's say you're ordering 10,000 or 2,000 of these items, right? You're going to expect that the first shipment's going to be the first few hundred, then the next shipment's going to be the next few hundred, and then lastly, the last one's going to retain all of that. Oftentimes, too, as other vendors, they might be in back order as well. When you turn in the purchase order slip, they're not going to tell you right away, oh, by the way, I can't accept your purchase order because we're backed up. They're going to notify you saying, we'll send you whatever we have on floor, and then you're just going to have to wait till the next time, but we'll bill you after that. That's when most companies do is they ship what they have. They expect you to receive it and then wait for the other half. And if they don't, they will refund you, etc., which we talked about in chapter 4. Okay. So this is common for a lot of companies. So here is how you retrieve the information as an item receipt. Okay, you could do that as well as if you were to any transaction. Again, if you can complete one, you can complete the others just the same exact way. So again, we look at our vendor's menu. We can receive items and enter in a bill, or just receive items. If you just do receive items, automatically item receipt. Okay. If you go to the vendor center, same thing up here. You can go ahead and go to new transactions. You can either receive items and enter a bill, or you can just receive the items, which is your item receipt. You can actually right-click on a vendor and be able to do the same thing here. You're going to receive items and enter in a bill, or you just receive the items. And then for here, this is actually more clear. You can either enter in the actual item receipt, or you can enter in a bill. Okay? Straightforward. Pretty same thing. And I believe the bill tracker, we can explore that, I don't think has that option. So here's the bill tracker, manage transaction. Yeah, no, you don't have, all you have is just to enter in a bill. So again, this is for your bill tracker, not to keep track of your inventory. So there you go. You don't have the item receipt. You do have the bill though. So if you do receive your items, for sure, bill tracker is not the way to go. You definitely don't want to do that, right? And of course, I believe if you do open your purchase order itself, at the very top of the window, you can select the item's receipt. Okay, you can convert it as an item receipt right there. Okay. So again, since I am already here, I'm going to go ahead and click it since it's the same exact one that we're looking at. And I'm going to go ahead and click this. So this is what normally would happen is, well, this is going to pop up. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel and do it the proper way, just so that I don't miss anything. Okay. So let's close this out as well. So we're going to receive items with no bill, without a bill. That's what's going to happen is here. You're going to get an item receipt. So the window that we saw earlier was selecting the item receipts. But in this case, that's actually a step before that happened. So we're going to go backtrack here. So item receipt here, we're going to recognize that we did receive our items, but we did not receive the bill because we only actually got a partial shipment. So you're going to enter in the vendor and it's going to say, whoa, here you're associating an item receipt. You do have an open purchase order available. Is this the one that you want to look at? And we say yes. Okay, so this is the window I was looking at. Okay, so now it's asking me to select which purchase order I'm actually receiving the items from. So this is where packaging slip, purchase order numbers, invoice numbers, everything is going to come into play, right? We received an invoice. We received a packaging slip, and it's for this particular purchase order itself. So we're going to go ahead and select that and click OK. So what's going to happen is it's going to populate all the information right down below. Okay. Obviously, when we received it, it's going to be, I believe, the 20th of April. Okay. Per reference number. Reference number, you can choose whatever reference number you want it to be. Oftentimes, the best way to do this is to indicate that this is a purchase order from 2019 1A. Okay? All right, so you know that this belongs to 2019 1 purchase order. However, also, it's part 1 of your items. Okay? So now that we're going to look at here and look at our details. Now, how much did we actually receive? Okay, so in this case, in this scenario, we only received half the shipment. So we have half of the metal frames, and they sent us the other half of the wooden frames. So once we enter this information in, as you can see, all right, my window expanded, so I'm going to adjust it accordingly so it looks a little sound. Okay, and then now I have 10 of the metal frames and 20 of the wooden frames, and this is what I am receiving since it cost me $2.15 each. So now this item receipt is worth this much. It's worth the half of what we originally purchased, right? We didn't receive the whole thing yet. So once I've recognized that this has happened, right, I go ahead and click Save and Close. Okay. What you're gonna notice is if I go to my vendor center again, and I look at my transactions for the purchase for Mr. Ace Supply, and look at all my transactions. Notice this: you have your original. You have your original purchase order, and you have an item receipt. Okay, you can double click on it and see that this is my item receipt. And if you look on the right side, it's going to pretty much tell you all this information on that you received this item and that it's worth to $128. Okay, so that is an item receipt, but we've only received half the items. Okay, and then of course, this is where in case for when you do receive upon those items, this is also where you can also cancel your items as well. You could go back to the purchase order, you can edit, or you can close it and actually say, this is it. This is exactly, I got my order done, and I'm going to close it out. At the top of the window, there's the button here that allows you to close out or cancel the entire order itself. Okay, but for now we're not doing that because we're still pending on our transaction to be complete. So now that I have this right here, so you can mark it as closed. So if you cancel your order, that's where you do it. You mark it as closed. But in this case, I am still waiting for the rest of my items. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it the way it is, and I'm going to close out my purchase order. So yes, you can cancel at any given time. Okay, make sure you modify so it reflects your total items that you are canceling. Okay. So now that I have this, right, and I'm pending my other order, what I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to actually show you the purchase order status real quick so we can kind of see where our items are currently. So I can go to my reports, and I'm going to go to my purchases, okay? I can do purchases, I think it is over here, open purchase orders detail, or I could do open purchase orders, okay? If I click this, what's going to happen is if I look here, I have one purchase order for April 7th, and what you're going to notice is it's going to tell you that you have a total of this, and you received half of it. So that means you're still pending on the remaining of 121 items left. So here it tells you right here, you're expected to have a full 243 items, but you've already have an open balance, meaning you still have half of it remaining. So it pretty much keeps track of the items right here by telling you, hey, your original purchase order. Yeah, that's what I meant, items, because we didn't look at the detail. If we look at the detail, I can go ahead and show you the detail. So here, if we go to, what was it, purchases, purchase orders by detail, okay? If I go like this, then here you go. Now it tells me right here in detail that my original purchase order for Ace Supply was supposed to be for 20. I've received half of it, so that means my remaining amount is 10. I'm still pending on those 10 more items, okay? So there you go. And it gives you even by the detailed information on the actual item itself. So this, like, again, you can click this and you'd be able to find all the information that you needed. So pending open invoices, you're still remaining 10 of the metal frames and you're remaining 20 of the wooden frames. Okay? So that's what's really cool about that, that you can run those kind of reports and it will tell you exactly what you need. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and complete the next one. So let's say I did actually receive my, not a bill. Okay, I did actually receive the other half of my items. Now what happens here is I need to complete my entering, I need to create another item receipt before I can enter in a bill. Because if you look very carefully, the next transaction you're going to do is you're actually going to record the bill against the inventory. This is where step number 2, where you enter in your actual bill, is going to be. But first, let's go ahead and enter in the second packaging slip. So we're going to enter in the second packaging slip. Okay, so here's an item receipt. We're going to go ahead and do a supply. And of course, yes, I have this. Now it tells me you are pending another open purchase orders. When I click OK, it's going to, boom, automatically associate that you're waiting on 10 more items of the metal frames and 20 more items of the wooden frames. So it's keeping track for you, okay? And it's also going to let you know on the right side that, well, this total amount, if you are receiving everything, right, should be in the amount of $128, which is correct, okay? Which is half of what we originally invoiced for, okay? So again, reference number is going to be your PO 2019-1B because this is the second half of it. So make sure that you recognize the differences. They can't have the same number, so you need to do something about that. And there you go, $121, okay? And this time, I'm actually going to say I received this on the 22nd. So a couple of days later, I received it, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead, click Save and Close. So everything looks good. Save and close. I get that beep of approval. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our our purchase orders again, or our transactions with Mr. Ace Supply. So here you go, Ace Supply. Now you notice this. You have 2 item receipts and you have your purchase order. Okay, so here we received part A and we received part B. All right. Now here's the next part that actually doesn't work if you utilize anything other. So you can't go ahead and select enter in a bill. It's not going to work that way. Okay, so this is very important that this only happens on the home page. Okay, once you've already accepted that you received the item without a bill, you have to use this. It's the only transaction you can do. And also the one on the actual purchase orders, which this is the window I was talking about. Now it's going to ask you to select your item receipt. So in this case, I type in Ace Supply. I see that I have 2 of them available. Now here's a good thing and a bad thing. Unfortunately, you can't combine your item receipts into one bill. It will not. QuickBooks hasn't gone into that point where it can record that, because again, your packaging slip is not going to have the same number. It's going to have 2 different identification numbers. So what's going to happen is what you're going to do is you're going to actually convert each one, and when you mark the bill, it's going to have to be 2 separate bills, okay? But they're essentially one, okay? So this is also because the reason of this being is that you can cancel the order at any given time. You also can when you do receive one of them, you could pay for the first half now, and then pay the other half another time. So that's technically the reason why they kind of keep it separate. So in this case, I'm going to select my first one, which is part A, and I'm going to click OK. So what's going to happen is it went from item receipt to bill. Okay, and I'm going to say I received it on the 22nd. So then when I received my second packaging slip, the bill also was there. What's going to happen is I'm going to verify this is for the other half. Okay, or this is for one of the parts, so one of the halves. And then again, the reference number here is going to stay the same. Okay, you can have the same reference number as your item receipt, because watch what happens. Once I press enter and save and close, what does it say here? Okay, you have a charge. You have a change in the transaction. Do you want to record your changes? You want to say yes. Once I've done that, if I go back to my little window here, what you're going to notice is, boom, that item receipt is now a bill. Okay, so that's what you have to do. Unfortunately, you can't just go enter in a bill because it's going to be completely separate. You can't go enter items with a bill. It's going to be completely separate. Okay, so apparently, not apparently, in this kind of scenario, you unfortunately have to go through either the invoice itself and select the item receipt, or you'd actually have to go to your home page and convert the item receipt here. So again, I'm going to convert my last bill or my last item receipt into a bill. Okay, everything looks good. It's due on the same date, except this is purchase order part B. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and click save and close. Yes. So again, if I go back to my little vendor center, I'm going to see that now both of my item receipts are now completely bills. Okay, so that's what happens when you receive your items with packaging slips and no bill is present. Okay, and then of course when you pay your bills, you can select multiple bills. So essentially what you could do is you could pay for these 2 separate bills as one bill. Okay, that's the flexibility that QuickBooks has, is you can pay multiple bills with one check. And that's essentially what is happening here. You're going to select all the bills that are available and you're going to pay them off either with one check or separately. Okay? Any questions on item receipts?
No, nothing right now.
All right.
Not yet.
Okay. So I'm going to pull away from the book real quick, and I'm actually going to show you how to create, how to enter in receiving items with an actual bill. So for this example, I'm going to go ahead and use a supply as again, and I'm going to create another purchase order. But this time, I'm going to create it with other stuff, of course. Walnut Creek, and I'm going to say that this purchase order was done on the 10th of April, okay? And of course, this is purchase 2019 number 2. The item I'm going to buy is going to be the camera. Camera. SR32. And I'm going to say I bought 5 of those. Okay? Just throw it out there. I bought 5 of them. Okay? And again, you can enter in anything you'd like in the memo. I'm going to say purchased 5 cameras. Okay. And everything looks good. My purchase order's there. I have it on the 10th, and I'm going to save and close. Okay. So now again, if I were to look at here, I have another purchase order number 2. But this time, I'm going to enter in that I received the items with a bill. And let's see what happens when we do that. It automatically comes out as a bill. So in this case, this one's a lot more easier because all you have to do is just enter in the information, right? And boom, it pops up saying you have an open invoice. I'm going to click yes, select the purchase order. Sorry, I said invoice. You're going to select the purchase order. You're going to notice all this information. And let's say I actually received this a week before. So I received it on the 17th. Okay. And I'm going to validate everything looks good. And here, again, if you're using this from a purchase order, you actually can use it as a reference number. In this case, I don't have a specific area where I can place my purchase order number in. So in this case, I'm going to have to type it in as purchase PO 2019 2. Since this is the only order I have, I look at everything looks good. My terms are there, 2% if I pay within 10 days, so on and so forth. Everything looks good, and I go ahead and save and close. And again, your window is just going to reflect that you have 2 purchase orders and a total of 3 bills. Okay? All right. Any questions? So one of them is your recording ACE packaging slip.
No, but I need to restart my phone because I can't hear you so good. So I'll be right back, okay?
Oh, okay. That's fine.
Sorry.
No worries. Okay. Robin, did you have any questions in regards to this?
No, I have nothing right now.
Okay, so again, the easiest way to do this is to go ahead, if it comes to the point where you are receiving a packaging slip or if you are receiving a bill, those are the ways that you enter it in, okay? So again, like I said, common is going to be seeing packaging slips because if you order in large quantities, that's usually what happens, okay? All right. Okay, so now that we talked about item receipts, we also talked about entering a bill against inventory. So let's see. Okay. All right, so now that I completed that whole section, next one is going to be looking at adjusting our inventory. So now that we got to take a look at both perspectives of receiving packaging slips and as well as looking at receiving inventory with a bill. Okay, so the next section is going to be looking at how to adjust inventory. So this one is if in case you are the inventory manager and you are subject to if you're subject to lower cost of market, which we talked about, right? When we're dealing with lower cost of market, we need to adjust our inventory because again, the assumption with lower cost of market is that our items that we purchase for inventory, they don't last over time. Just because of that notion that you have the idea that, for example, electronics, right? You can't expect to purchase something in 2018 and be able to sell it for the same full price in 2020, right? Because of technology, it gets more advanced, better improvements, the model is much better. So for any reasons that you need to adjust your inventory, whether it's due to the market or whether you lost a few items, maybe you took it out because you kept it for yourself, you know, let's say the owner took it because he owns the stuff, so he can mark it down as whatever he wants to mark it down for, etc., right? So this is where you can actually adjust your inventory. And there's two ways, there's actually three ways that you could adjust it, right? You could adjust the quantity, you could also adjust the total value, or you could actually adjust both quantity and total value, okay? So here in this example, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at adjusting our inventory, okay? Michelle, are you back? Okay, so here we're going to take a look at adjusting our inventory, okay? So of course, the one first way that they showed you is through the inventory center, but we do not have one. But if we look at our home page, we do have inventory activities, right? And that's a big component, especially when we're looking at adjusting our inventory. Here you have a little drop-down menu. You have two options to either learn about more about about inventory itself, or you can actually adjust the quantity / total value right here. So it allows you to do it here. The alternative way to be able to do that too, if you are not viewing your inventory center, is to go to your vendors and go to inventory activities, and you could be able to adjust your inventory this way. Okay, you can even take a physical inventory count, so like you can print out some sheets there that allow you to take a physical inventory count if you like, but in this case, not really necessary. So here, by selecting, I'm going to adjust my inventory, right? At the very top of the window, it's going to ask me, well, what do I want to change? Do I want to change the quantity? Do I want to change the total value? Or do I want to change both quantity and value? In this case, we're going to take a look at two examples, one for quantity and one for total value. So here, I'm going to go ahead and write that this is going to be for quantity. Okay. The dates, of course, is going to be whenever the ending period is going to be. Usually, when you make adjustments, it's going to happen towards the end of the period. So here, I'm making it as April 30th. Okay. Now, there are a few things that you can do. Now, usually they recommend that when you're adjusting the account that you select a particular expense account. So if you do not create this account, then you can adjust it as accordingly as maybe your cost of goods sold or your actual the inventory account itself. But in this case, if you do go against and say you are actually updating the inventory itself, it will just give you an error message and just click yes, okay, I know this is an expense account. it's completely fine. Again, that's more higher level of understanding QuickBooks and how to manipulate it. But in this case, because we're just doing this for the example of this book, it asks us to enter in the expense account as inventory variance. Okay. So this one has already created our account for this. Now, it's going to give you this message saying, okay, blah, yes, it's yes. Do not display this message. Okay, so now that we have inventory, see, I hit the wrong one. It's supposed to be inventory variance account. So again, when I want to adjust my actual inventory, it will actually give me that error message saying that this is not an expense account. But I don't want inventory asset. I want inventory variance. So this is going to be an expense account. So what normally happens is that if you are adjusting your inventory, where are you costing it out? Of course, the general rule of thumb is you're actually going to cost it out as an expense. You have two options. You can either cost it out as part of your cost of goods sold, throw it in there, or you can actually create a separate account, in this case, to basically pretty much say you lost this portion of the money due to the market or for whatever reason it is. So in this case, they do have already created an account called inventory variance. So with that being said, now the question is, what is the reference number going to be? You can create whatever number you want to do. I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible. Make it inventory 1, okay? And customer job, there's no really customer job for this one. Class, again, this has nothing to do with the Walnut Creek or the San Jose location, so you're most likely going to label it as an overhead transaction. Okay. So the first item we're going to be looking at is going to be our metal picture frames. Okay. So once I type this in, right, it's going to fill in the boxes for me. Now, because I'm adjusting the quantity, it's going to pretty much pull up how much quantity I actually have right now on hand. Right now it says I have 40 on hand. Right here, I'm going to go ahead and write my new adjustment, which I think it's 38.
Yes.
38. Good.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm adjusting it by 38. And what's going to happen is when I click away, it's going to automatically tell me that I have -2 difference. Okay, so when I do this, right, and I go ahead and click save and close, what's going to happen is it's going to actually adjust my picture frames from 40 to 38. And I'm going to go ahead and save and close. Okay, so I'll show you the report in a second. Okay, so now that was just quantity. Okay, let's say I also need to make an adjustment to my other picture frame because it lost value. So I'm going to go ahead and click this adjustment again. And usually if you do a couple adjustments in a row, they tend to save everything that you were working on. So I'm going to go ahead and do total value. Okay, same thing here. The date's the same. Inventory variance is the same. Overhead is going to be the class. And this time it's inventory number 2. Okay, so overhead. But this time I'm actually doing the wooden ones. Okay. And because when I originally purchased it, right, the total value of the 40 items cost me a total of 200. This time it dropped the value down to 180. And when I make this adjustment, then it's going to take this 180 and it's going to recalculate using the 40 items and recalculate a new average cost per item. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. All right. Now, let's go ahead and go into my reports and actually look at my inventory stock. So I can go to my reports here, head on to inventory and look at my inventory stock status by item. Okay. By doing so, I'm going to get this information right here saying that, boom, I had 40 of the metal picture frames. Now, what does it say? It says I actually have 38. Okay. Now, this is just the items, but if I want to look at the value of it, I could go to my reports and go back to inventory and look at my stock status by, not by vendor. Oopsies. I got to go into the by detail reports, inventory. Okay, inventory valuation detail. If I go here and toggle the date, okay, so here I will look at the value of my current inventory. And it says here for my cases, frames, here's metal, here's my wooden frames. It shows that I have a total value of 180. Okay. So when you make your inventory adjustments, make sure that you are careful. So if you, if you are planning to utilize the inventory in QuickBooks, yes, you can, if you don't use the average cost, physically calculate it on another worksheet and just adjust the valuation accordingly to how you actually cost your items. So again, that's just going to be another tedious step that you have to do, but that's just what happens if you're not willing to have to pay for the corporate status of the enterprise, right? You don't want to pay more if you're a smaller company. But if you were to do that, that's the best way to be able to adjust your inventory so it reflects exactly how it should be. It's just taking more extra steps, okay? So that's how you do the inventory adjustments, right? Any questions?
Nothing right now.
Okay. All right. Let me look at the time again. I didn't even look. Okay, it is 3:40. Okay, perfect. So now that we looked at adjusting our inventory, we looked at quantity and we looked at value. Okay. So next section here is actually going to be looking at how to do group items. All right. So no questions for the inventory. So when we set up group items, okay, so this is where I have to draw the line because there's a difference between grouping items together and actually assembling items together, okay? The difference between a group item is that it's generally used for when you sell packages, right? Usually a 2-for-1 deal. Or let's say if you buy this package, then I'll throw in the picture frame for free, okay? Usually when you have bundle deals, you would actually use it as a group item, okay? So basically you're just taking two items, putting them together, and calling it a day, okay? You're not creating a new product out of it. You're just grouping them together and just packaging them together. And then for this one, you can also adjust the selling price of the packages because usually bundles are cheaper than buying it individually. Okay, that's the assumption. Okay, and that's what we're going to use group items for. Now, when we talk briefly about the inventory assembly is when you actually utilize the inventory parts to actually generate a product. For example, when I use the bakery example, right? If it takes eggs, milk, flour, butter, sugar, if you're going to calculate all of those as inventory parts, and when you use the assembly, you're going to combine them to make your finished product, which is a cake, okay? Or pastry, whatever it is that you make, okay? That's when you're going to use inventory assembly because you're not using a whole item, you're only using a portion or a part of an item, okay? And we'll talk about that in a couple minutes after we look at group items, okay? So first, we're gonna introduce two. Can you hear me now?
Sorry, I unmuted to yell at my kids. I'm
Oh,
sorry. I hit the wrong button.
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to me saying you couldn't hear me.
No, I'm sorry.
No worries. No worries. So, setting up a group item. So, in this particular scenario, right, Academy Photography not only sells services and products, they sell a bundle package. So, again, I mentioned this before, right? In this case, we're going to sell a 3-hour retouching package that includes with a 5x7 wooden picture frame as a bundle package. Okay. So let's go ahead and create that. Okay. So first things first is, how do you create a new item?
Click on the item and services, it says, under the company section of the home page.
Correct. And then
Select lists menu and then select item list.
perfect. Yes. Good. List, item list. Okay. And then what's the hidden or other one?
Let's see. Okay.
I'll give you a hint. It's
Is it
on.
the bottom for item?
No. I'll give you a hint. It is on somewhere on the menu bar. Besides list. Okay. I'll give you a second hint. It's under vendor's menu.
Oh, under the inventory activities.
Under inventory activities, new item. Yes. Okay. Since I'm already on my items and service list, I'm going to go ahead and click new. Okay. And this time, instead of creating, so in order to create a group item, you need to have the actual inventory part or non-inventory part exist first. Okay. So you need to have those single items first before you can group them together. So basically, once you already have that, and then I go ahead and click group. So basically, it's pretty much straightforward, right? We're doing a retouching. I think it's 5x7 retouching. I think 5x7
retouching.
Perfect.
In the group name and then press tab to advance to the description field.
Okay, and this is retouching and a 5x7 wooden picture frame. I don't know. Okay. So now that we have this, now it's actually going to ask us to enter in our items as if you're listing them out. So in this case, my first item I'm going to be putting in here is in fact going to be retouching, because that's going to be the main one. Okay. And how many hours of retouching am I going to include? I believe there's 3. And then I'm also going to include the 5x7 wooden frame. Okay. Now, of course, one thing that you're going to notice is that I'm bundling all these up together, right? I'm not setting a price point at all because that's going to be determining, that's what you're going to be determining on your actual sales form. In this case, we're taking 2 and 2 and we're combining it together and we're calling it a day. So if my retouching is, I don't know, $75 an hour and we order 3 of them, plus my picture frame is another $9.99, then when it appears on my sales form, that's when I can go ahead and adjust it there. So here I have my item, it's grouped together, everything looks good. I can go ahead and click save or click OK. So I have a 5x7 retouching. Okay? Now let's go ahead and take a look at what happens when I sell that package. What happens if I sell that bundle? So I'm going to create an invoice. Okay? And I'm just going to come up with a random customer. Let's say Mr. Bob Mason is purchasing something from us. So here he is. And I think he's a San Jose. And let's go ahead and add in that he bought one of these 5x7 retouching packages. So if I go ahead and type in the 5 right here, I have retouching right here. What's going to happen is it's going to automatically pull in the group item name and pull the information that I've just talked about before, saying this is the item itself. Okay? And how you can adjust it is going to be how you're going to do it accordingly. So it is $95 for every retouching. So times by 3. So I'm looking at a grand total of this retouching 5x7 photo package to be a grand total of $294. Retouching and a 5x7 wooden frame to be a grand total of $294.99. So here is in another sense of your subtotal account. Okay, of course, because it also included that this is going to be this and that's going to be that. What's going to actually happen is this is where you're going to change your sale price right here. Okay, you're going to make an adjustment. Maybe the picture frame is $0 because you throw it in for free. Okay, so if I do that, it's going to give me this error message. I'm going to click OK. So now there you go. If you get 3 packages of the thing, I'm going to throw in the picture frame for free. So there, you only need to pay $285. And you get in the 5x7 photo package for free. Okay, so again, of course, you have to write 1 in here so you know that. So then when you calculate your actual item, you're actually, when you sell the item, it records that you sold one of these items. Okay, so make sure that you double check that this does say 1 photo or 1 picture frame. Okay, and it's 3 hours, and there you go. And you're still getting charged. Obviously, you're getting tax on nothing. So here, it just reflects the total amount here. So you're going to have to make the adjustment accordingly on the sales price itself, depending on what the promotion is, what the package is, etc., etc. Once I'm done here, I'm just going to make sure I write thank you to my customer and indicate that this person got a 5x7 retouching package. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and click save and close. There you go. Boom. And that's how you put things together, make them into bundles, and voila. So again, you need to create the item first before you can create the group item. The item that you have as an individual is, you can determine whether you have a set price for them or not. And if you do, in order for you to actually complete the rest of the information is once you use that group item on a sales receipt or an invoice, that's where you can make the adjustments to the pricing itself on the actual form itself. Okay, so yes. Any questions on how to use group items and how to apply them?
No, not right now. I'm good.
Nope.
Okay. So, we have a couple more things left. Excuse me. We have the first thing is we're going to do is we're going to go over inventory assembly. All right, so here we went over group items. Inventory assembly. So again, I'm unable to do it. You are unable to, actually no, I'm the only one that's unable to do it, okay? Only Premier Accountants and Enterprise is able to go ahead and create an inventory assembly. So if you guys can practice on your own for this section right here, again, so this is primarily for individuals who create their products, right? But not to a grand scale where you're an actual manufacturing company. All right, you're not producing a mass product for a wide platform, right, or a wide variety of people, right? You're only creating a small quantity of products for a small public area, okay? So again, that's why this section here is super small, and it says that if you want to actually learn more in details into it, you are actually going to go to page, I think it's 253. Yeah, 253, yes. So go ahead and check up that part just because, as you can see, the book doesn't even want to teach you it because look how small this section is. It's mostly because, again, not every business is going to create a product, right? Not every business is going to want to make a product. So this is why it's a very small section, and if you want to learn more about it, go to that page right there, 253. I can't do it because I have Pro. And again, it doesn't really tell you much about actually really learning about it. It doesn't seem like it's a super important topic, just as long as you know what to do, and you're given the instructions right there on page 253. Okay, but again, the difference between a group item, right, it says right here, it is not the same. It's different from a group item because essentially, instead of taking a whole product or a whole inventory part, you're actually going to break it down and you're going to scale them down. Okay, so again, it's essentially the same steps. You're going to be, you have a list of your items, right? So you need to make sure that when you create an inventory assembly part, you need to have the crucial items as separate inventory parts or non-inventory parts. And then you can just combine them, like list them and throw them all together. And then there you go ahead and create the item there. But for this section, I am not going to teach this, and it's something that you're going to have to do on your own. Okay. Just wanted to make sure you guys know the difference between grouping them and actually creating a product using the grouping of the inventory items. Okay. Last section we have here is going to be the inventory reports. As we saw before, if you are the inventory manager, this section is going to be the most important section for you. Okay. Again, as we saw here in the report section under inventory, we have a few things that you can do here, right? You have your inventory valuation, so meaning looking at your total amounts of inventory that you have. You have the quantity by looking at your stock status, so how much you actually have available versus how much you have sold. Okay, stock status wise. And then here you could do a physical inventory worksheet account as well. And then, of course, that's also tied into, of course, your purchases. So again, you have your purchases by your vendors. Of course, you have open purchases and etc. So again, those are the only few that you really have in regards to inventory. Now, my book, as according to 2019, Okay, I don't actually have this inventory item quick report. So that's definitely going to be something that you're going to have to look into on your own. But what I can do, oops, I think I hit my chart of accounts. Okay, if I go to my items here, and I go to reports, I can go ahead and do a quick report here. Make sure I select all my things here, and here it's just pretty much giving me a little list of everything that I've done in regards to this. So again, the items and services quick report isn't what is supposed to be. So the one that is in your book is mainly towards inventory itself. So there's not really much in regards to this. So mine is not the same as yours. So this one just pretty much lists everything that occurred. Okay. The only thing I can really think about that you can do is if you do go to your chart of accounts, okay, and you go to your inventory asset right here, and let's say you do run a quick report on that. Again, it's only going to give you this much, all the invoices, pretty much all the transactions that you have there. That's as far as the best I can say is the closest to running an inventory item quick report itself. But in this one, I don't have it apparently in my reports section, but I am able to create something similar using the chart of accounts and looking at that. But it doesn't give you really too much details on the particular items that you are purchasing. So that's just a downside there, is you're not really getting a real overlook of the inventory items itself. Okay, so that's it there. But as far as all the reports, we saw the stock status, we saw the inventory valuation detail, and pretty much those are the only two that's actually going to be really pertinent or really something for an inventory manager to create those reports for. All right, now we reach the end of the chapter. Is there any extra questions that you guys have in particular for this chapter here?
Nope.
All right. So let's go ahead and go over the review questions. Okay, number 1. If a vendor ships more than you ordered on a purchase order, which options are you going to be doing? Which of the following actions would you not be able to, remember it, not. Which one is not appropriate?
So B?
B, okay? You can receive the extra shipments as an inventory adjustment transaction, okay? Any other one else?
Would not be appropriate.
Yes.
A.
A, you could return the extra shipment and then send it back to the vendor. You could refuse. My bad. Okay, so
The vendor without recording anything in QuickBooks.
Okay,
No,
no.
nothing.
Well, yes, A is actually something that you can do. So I didn't actually talk about this section. It is the part right after what do you do if someone overships you. Again, that's pretty straightforward. What, ethically wise, what would you do? Would you accept the shipment or would you not accept it? So in this case, A says you're not gonna accept it and you're gonna send it back. That is ethically correct. You can do that. Because if you refuse it and you ship it back and you don't record it in your QuickBooks, then you have no record of it, which is good. Because you didn't accept it. Okay? Where B says you could receive the items and adjust it through the inventory, using the inventory adjustment. Is that ethically correct?
No.
No, because you didn't pay for it. You're just going to receive the items and say, oh, they just sent me extra stuff, so I'm just going to adjust my inventory for it. That is ethically incorrect because you didn't record that you received the extra stuff. You just made an adjustment to it. So, yeah, that's morally, ethically incorrect. However, let's go ahead and look at C. C, you could receive the extra shipment into inventory and keep it and then pay for it.
That is correct.
That is correct. Yes, you can accept it and let the vendor know, hey, you received me, and so I'm going to send you a check for the extra stuff. That is absolutely correct. Now let's look at D. Okay, you could receive the extra shipment, okay, into inventory, and then send it back, and then record a vendor or bill credit in QuickBooks.
Also correct.
That is, it sounds wrong. Yes, that's why I said B. I said D would be one of those answers that you could technically, if you read it incorrectly, in a perspective, you could, when you're reading this, it sounds like you receive the extra shipment, okay, and you're gonna send it back and have the vendor credit you.
Right.
First off, you didn't pay for it. So why are you receiving a vendor credit? Okay, so that's a one way that you could look at it. Technically, it is a correct matter because the answer is B. But I still think that D, if you look at it the wrong way, it pretty much says that you basically collected the extra inventory, but it didn't say anything about charging yourself. But when you send it back, you're going to charge the vendor to send you a vendor credit. You didn't even pay for it in the first place. So that's why I think D is actually a wrong answer as well. But that's just my way of looking at it. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. But B is the correct answer. At least that's what the book says. Okay. Number 2, when setting up a group item, where do you enter in the sales price?
Oh.
She said C.
What?
Michelle said C.
I said C.
C? Yes, I said C as well.
Yes. The group item does not include a sales price. If you guys remember real quick, you can rewind this video maybe about 20 minutes ago. I just did an example. The group item does not have a place for you to enter in a sales price. You're going to have to manually correct it on the sales form. Okay. Number 3 asks, okay, to activate QuickBooks inventory, what do you do?
I have D.
That's what I
Like
picked
edit.
also.
Yeah.
Okay, D. Okay, you select the edit menu and then select the preferences and then click on the items and inventory preferences and then click company preferences tab. Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct. Okay. Number 4 asks the inventory asset account. Okay.
Yeah.
D.
Uses.
I chose D.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm gonna say A. I think she's right though.
Okay. Okay, well, let's do process of elimination. Tracking open purchase purchase orders of inventory items. Okay, so is inventory asset account, does it track purchase orders?
No.
No, that's not a true statement. Okay, purchase orders tracks inventory assets, but not the other way around.
Okay.
Okay. So then B says, does an inventory asset account decrease when inventory is purchased?
No.
No, that's not true. It increases it, remember. Okay, so when we receive inventory or when we make purchases of inventory, it increases. It's only when we sell the item it decreases. Okay, and then C says increases when inventory is sold, which I just counteract that letter C, right? I said it decreases when you sell it. And then lastly, D says increases when inventory is purchased. That is true. Okay. So, yes, D is true. Last but not least, number 5, okay, in QuickBooks Pro Premier and Accountant, inventory can do all of the following except.
I believe it's B.
Yes, B, use the LIFO FIFO method of determining inventory cost, right? What can Pro Premier and Accountant do?
Average.
Average costing, yes. So this one using LIFO, FIFO, only enterprise solutions can do this. Okay, and some parts of online can do it too, depending on what subscription you purchase. Okay. All right, good job, everybody. It is exactly now 4:15. It's perfectly time to go home. I mean, be done with class. So if you guys don't